So that brings us to the end of the content for today. So if you've got any questions, please use the Q&A function to ask questions. If there was anything that I've skipped over or you didn't quite understand, let me know and we can go back to the configuration on the MBX and have a look at that if you want. So Enrique is asking the PepVPN limit. I'm assuming you're asking about the SpeedFusion throughput limit or the amount of pairs that you can connect to it. So on the MBX, so it varies depending on the device. On the MBX, it's 2 SpeedFusion pairs you can have connected. So that could be 2 separate Fusion hubs. And you can increase that to 5 or 20, I believe it is, with a license that you can apply to it. So you can purchase an additional license to allow more. The throughput of SpeedFusion, if you're using Fusion Hub, it is unlimited throughput. You're limited by what connect speed you've got available at that Fusion Hub and available on the SpeedFusion on your WANs as such. Okay, so that came through the chat. I'm now going to look at the question and answers. Okay, so what sort of the max capacity is possible? We're searching for a warranted 140 megabits per second over LTE. Okay, so LTE cellular is never guaranteed. Unless you own the network, you're going to struggle to guarantee a throughput in the higher numbers. But it's definitely possible to have much higher throughputs. I'm just going to bring up one now with some speed test results. So this was a speed test I did on OnTeeb last year. I've shown these in previous webinars. So let me just bring that out of full screen. Okay, so can you see that screenshot now that I've shared? Give me a thumbs up if you can see a screenshot of the, yep, okay, very good. Hey George, how you doing? Okay, so this was a test I did in OnTeeb. This was just with 2 SFR SIM cards and 2 Orange SIM cards on a category 12 HD4 MBX. So this is using the SpeedFusion test within the router, and as you can see there, I'm getting a total of 304 megabits per second download. It did get up to 360 megabits per second, but I didn't quite get the screenshot quick enough on that. But as you can see, it is nicely balancing across all the WANs there. The latency has gone a bit higher. That's because the link is getting saturated, but we don't have any packet loss. So that's 304, that's 314 megabit throughput, 316, and then on the upload there, you can see we got to 110, and then on this one up to 150. Again here, you can see it is nicely balancing across the different WANs. There is quite a bit of packet loss on one WAN there, but that's just naturally what SpeedFusion will do, is compensate for that. So pretty much the speeds that you're going to get are going to be determined by the network provider and what is actually available at that particular location and the load on the network. So yeah, so that's, I hope that answers your question. If you want to test that, I mean, the best way to do it is to test and see what you can get. But if you're going to test for, say you're trying to guarantee that kind of speed, and say for example it was for a concert or a live event or something like that, you can't go and test a few days before when there's no one around and get wicked results that day, and then expect to come back on the day of the event and get the same results. Once you get that venue flooded with hundreds of people, the local networks just get flooded and you won't necessarily get the same throughput as what you might expect. We see that happen regularly with events like the Monaco Grand Prix and live concerts and things like that. Enrique's asking about the outbound policy to VPN link. I hope I answered that a little bit earlier there. With the outbound policy you can do that. Matthew is asking, is it possible to bond the 4 WAN connections and 2 cellular WANs for higher connection speeds? Yes, it is. So I can do that right now. So let's come back here. So actually just now the WAN is actually just taken back over because the configuration I had here, if we go to the SpeedFusion page again, when I disabled the WAN that we were using, I'd only done it as temporarily. So when you disable it here, it only disables it temporarily, and after 15 minutes it re-enables it. So that's what happened there of this. That's why you'll see the traffic has jumped back over to the WAN and off the cellular. If we go back to the dashboard now, I am going to drag the 2 cellular WANs I've got into priority 1. So this will now bond all those 3 available connections into a single VPN. So they'll all be bonded together. So you see we've now got 3 active. If we now go status, real time, so it's a real time one there, so we'll go SpeedFusion. So you can see that all 3 are now active in this profile here, and all 3 are both receiving and transmitting data. So that's bonding a fiber optic connection and 2 cellulars together. So let's just go back here to the actual device throughput. So we can actually see data on WAN 1 and on cellular now. So it's going across all 3 links at the same time. I hope that answers your question, Matthew. Simon Bush, if we have a low load balance on the cell, would we have a lossless transition rather than a dropped packet? I'm not exactly sure what you mean there by the low load balance. Do you mean low load balance set on the PepWave or low load on the actual cell? Pretty much what's happening with the cellular is it's constantly checking the connection to make sure it is active. And if it doesn't get responses, it'll treat it as down and then use the next available connection. SpeedFusion, if you're using it, is checking that data is actually arriving at the server at the other end. So it's much more reliable again because it's really checking that data is arriving. So it really depends on your configuration and how you have it set up. So someone anonymous is asking the untagged VLAN ID to have a VLAN ID of none. Yep, so that's kind of standard on the VLAN tags, is that the base VLAN will just be left empty. So if we click on that there, you can see that there is no option here to add a VLAN tag. So that is just the default way VLANs work, because it is not a VLAN, it's just the base LAN. So it doesn't have a VLAN tag associated with it. Roger's asking, can you stop some devices when on cellular but okay for wired? Yes, so that can be done in the outbound policy. And I believe we can also do some stuff in the firewall rules there as well. So what you can do is in the outbound policy, you can create a rule that, say, enforces all traffic to, say, WAN 1. And that'll mean that all traffic has been forced to WAN 1, and it won't be able to use any of the other WANs. Alternatively, you could have it weighted balance on just the cellulars. So let's get rid of WAN 1, 2, and 3 here. And then also the USB ones. Obviously, they're not active now, but we can just disable them. So that means that it's going to load balance on the 4 cellulars. And then what you do is you leave this here as drop the traffic. And what that means, if those 4 cellulars fail, it's going to drop the traffic and they ain't going to have internet access. So that's what you can do there.